Hi, welcome back to Daily Sales Tips with Chen. We're talking about the guide process which you can use to move a prospect all the way from interested to a close. Quick refresher, guide stands for greet, understand, inform, discuss, enrich. And today we're on the last component. We're talking about enriching. So at this stage, you've already greeted the customer, you've already understood their needs, you've done your probing questions, you've informed them of your solution, you've pitched, you've done your demo, you've discussed, and you're closing them. They already said yes. Enriching is about that after service, what happens after the sale. And this component is still important despite the fact that a lot of salespeople don't deal with customer service. Customer service is often outsourced to another department, but these are some tips that I want to quickly share with you that will really help you as a salesperson because you will build trust with your customers and help you get a lot more referrals. So let's dive into it. When you're at the enriching stage, this is where you do two things. Number one, set expectations. Number two, educate your customers. And this is really important because at the end of the day, bad experiences happen because things don't go as expected. So if you set the right expectations, you will not have a bad or angry customer. And educating is also important because you might not have the time to cover everything in your pitch and demo. This is where you go into the details. You talk about the features, maybe you do onboarding, you set them up on the account, you show them all the extra things, that kind of stuff. And if you set those expectations and when you're educating them, the customer realizes that your product or service is actually not suitable for them, it is a-okay if they decide to back out at this point, right? This is different from talking yourself out of a sale. If you've already closed the customer and you still continue to try to sell them, this is very different. You just want to make sure that you're avoiding those nasty surprises. Be honest, be clear about your flaws, be clear on what you can or can't do for them. You never want to sell something that is not suitable for a customer. All right. So when I used to work for Wind Mobile, this is my personal story. So Wind Mobile is a Canadian telecom provider, and they're now called Freedom Mobile. A lot of people thought that Wind Mobile would have bad coverage area and they would have a lot of unhappy customers. I actually found that they had more happy customers than I would get when I was personally working for Bell. So I worked for both of them. When I was working for Bell, Bell is one of the largest telecom providers in Canada. They're one of the top threes. And we actually had a lot more angry customers because we would often tell customers that, you know what, Wind sucks. They only have certain coverage in certain areas. And we pretty much have coverage everywhere across Canada. And then sometimes we get a customer who goes off-roading, or maybe they go snowboarding and they don't get reception, or they get a roaming charge and they come back and they're angry. When I was with Wind, despite the smaller coverage area, we were actually trained very well to set good expectations. We would really assess and understand our customers' usage behaviors, their needs, where they would use their phone, and we would, educate them. We would tell them, hey, these are areas where reception will work. These are areas where reception doesn't work. This is what happens when you use your phone outside of the coverage area. This is how roaming charges work. And in that case, then they ended up really understanding and expecting those things to happen, so they're not unhappy when it does happen. If they realize, like let's say they say, oh, you know what? I realized that I work at home, the phone will work in my house and it will work at my workplace, but I often also visit my parents' house and it looks like you don't have coverage in my parents' house, right? In that case, if we realize that's the situation, we won't push the sale and we will process a refund if they insist. Otherwise, we might try to handle that objection. We might ask, how often are you actually at your parents' house, right? Are you really using your phone much when you're visiting your parents, or do they maybe have Wi-Fi? Because if they do, then maybe there are other ways that you can get around that. And at the end of the day, despite that, they will still be much more happy, even if the phone doesn't work over there, because they don't get those surprise charges. Make sense? So this is really the time to do a good job setting that good expectation. Other things to do when you're in the enriching phase is, number one, define what customer success means. This is important because if you know what success looks like for your customer, if you know what a happy customer is when they use your product or service, then you can be proactive when it comes to reviewing their expectation. So you can follow up with them, right? You can check in with them. You can say, hey, you don't want to wait for them to raise those issues. You can check in with them and say, hey, how are things going? Because if they're finding that certain things, they're struggling with certain things, you can address it early. You can educate them, you can help them out, and then it will be fixed before it becomes a bigger problem later, right? So don't make those assumptions. Make sure you're always meeting or exceeding their expectation. The follow-up as well is really, really important because really makes a big impact, especially if you make a personalized follow-up. When was the last time you had someone follow up with you personally for a purchase that you had? I would guess that it's probably not that often. My personal experience, the last time someone actually followed up with me was about 9 years ago, 2011, when I bought a handbag for my wife, and the manager of the store actually called me and said, "Hey, is your wife happy with the handbag?" And it goes a long way, right? So how can you be a bit more personal in doing that? And all that experience will really do is it will give you a lot more referrals because the customer will be a lot more happier and a lot more loyal. If you're in B2B, if you're selling business to business, when you're setting up ongoing communication, you also want to talk about what's the frequency, right? Set expectations around how often you will communicate, how you will communicate. So you might say, hey, is it okay if I follow up with you every 3 months through an email? So what's the channel, what's the frequency, and what you're following up about, right? When or why to call them, or when or why to email. That way, customer just really understands that, hey, if they have a certain problem, it's A-okay for them to call you as well. Or they can expect you to call them if certain things might go wrong, right? So this really builds a good relationship, good foundation. And then even if you pass your customer off to customer service department, you will still get a very loyal customer that will give you a lot more referrals. Shows that you care, right? And it gives you more opportunity for testimonials and referrals. So I've talked about that. So that's basically it for the Enrich component. I want to quickly do a high-level overview and show you that guide can happen in a lot more than just a conversation. So in B2B, the greet might be the intro email, right? The understand might be the discovery call, the inform might be the demo, your discuss might be the proposal, and then E might be onboarding. It can all happen within a certain area as well, like the website. The greet is what people see above the fold, right? So it's usually like you want the customer to see testimonials or case studies above the fold, or logos of companies that you've worked with. That might be a survey or a quiz to help you understand the customer. Your inform is your product page. Your discuss is your FAQ or your call to action or your checkout. The E is the confirmation email, right? What happens after they've checked out. Retail can all happen within the single interaction. It might be the layout of your store, that's the greet. It might be your visual merchandising, how you greet the customer. Understanding is your rep asking questions. Inform is the demo. Discuss is how you close. And then E is how you set up the customer with the product or service. So I hope this framework really helps you understand how you can get a customer from interested all the way to the close. If you like the session, here's my contact. I have a YouTube channel. Definitely check it out. It's just search my name up. And there's a playlist called Daily Sales Tips. So I'll link to it in the comment below. If you like it, do subscribe. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below or just send me an email. All right, enjoy it. Have a good day.